listening to the MLS Fantasy Insider, bringing you weekly tips, tricks, and advice for the official MLS fantasy game.
All right, hello, welcome everyone to our latest recording of the MLS Fantasy Insider for round 10. So excited to have everyone with us tonight. I did not get the social done this week before we started, so I'm going to go real quickly and get this social media stuff going. Please do, as always, if you see the Twitter or social media that you use, and if you see those notifications, please do like and share just to help spread the information around. And I'm going to get this on Reddit, and then we'll be good to go. But yeah, share those links, help spread the word, and increase our fantasy community. We're over 700 on Discord, so good times right there. A lot to be proud about there, isn't that right, Christian?
Oh, heck, yeah. Lots. Sorry, I wasn't listening. I was too busy trying to...
That's okay. You're in the zone. All of us are in the zone. I mean, Ashley was having her husband kill spiders before we came in here, so she was getting prepped in her third new location in as many days.
Oh my god, you guys.
So
The only place with air conditioning in my whole house.
All right, there we go. Well, welcome everybody who is in chat. We are ready to get started. Round 10 games. That's what we're not a 30-week season. So we're almost halfway through the season already. That's crazy. That's absolutely crazy. It's just flying right by. But let's see here. Rundown is good. Chat is good. Hey, chat. Don't even talk to me about Pozuelo. Don't even talk to me about Pozuelo yet. We'll get to that. All right. Well, if you all are ready, group is ready. Quick drink myself, and we will get started. Don't worry, we're recording, and so we're on top of it. Hello and welcome to episode 13 of the MLS Fantasy Insider, our preview of round 10. This episode is brought to you by the Panenka and other MLS goals that you did not see this weekend because you were watching the Euros? No. Actually brought to you by the amazing Patreon supporters of the MLS Fantasy Insider and MLSFantasyBoss.com. I'm your host, Reed Connolly from MLS Fantasy Boss, and tonight I'm joined by our co-hosts, Blaine Riffle and Ashley Savage. I'd also like to welcome our special guest, welcome back to the show, Christian Ward from our Discord, one of our admins over there. How are you all doing tonight?
Good.
2 thumbs up. Oh yeah, it's we have a third location for Ashley in as many days due to the incredible heat. That's right.
Fine, we're fine.
And then we have Christian, who, if you look, you may think he is broadcasting from the depths of some sort of cave, but if you pay close enough attention, you can see that this is actually, I believe, the background for the MLS Fantasy Splash screen on the webpage. Is that right?
Oh, is that what you're seeing?
That's what I'm saying. Like the top left corner of your screen kind of looks like that little textured tile that I believe is from.
Yeah.
Here we go. I believe that's from the fantasy game, and
Yep.
I will hope that eye helps me cement or at least lay claim to the title of MLS Fantasy Boss for another week, because by golly, my score this round do not talk to me about it. But we'll get to that just a second. Blaine, hello. How are you? Don't want to leave out you and your magnificent beard.
Oh, I said hi. I'm good.
You said hi. I should have known. You usually say hello before Ashley gets to it and everybody else. So.
I made a point to go really quick tonight so everybody else had time.
There we go. You were just being very, very considerate to everyone. Hello to everybody in chat. It's great to see you guys here. I've already seen some of you guys sharing your scores. I will highlight some of those in just a second. If you want to share them again, I'll read off some of them. Let's talk about our results. Blaine, how did you do?
I got a 115 this week, and I never thought I'd say this about getting over 110, but I'm a little disappointed in that. I panicked with the weather delay. I've been burned by weather postponements before and taken multiple zeros. And so I took DK out for Castellanos. Cost me 6 points right there. So that was my 121. I missed the lineup for Sporting on the midweek, so I stuck with Polito instead of Shallowy, which also hurt a little bit. Not sure I would have made that switch even if I had seen it, knowing Shallowy would start in the weekend, or Polito would start the weekend. I think the difference in scores this week is going to a lot of it come down to if you had the big names that went off and which defenders you took. And I was lucky enough to grab Fontas and got an 8 without a clean sheet, which really saved me. If you went with one of those Nashville defenders for a clean sheet or picked up one there, I think it turned out to be a pretty good week. If you missed on all 3 of your defenders, you probably fell behind just a little bit. But 115, Captain Heel, if you didn't do that, I'm really sorry. I don't think there's any reason not to captain him, but so 115 could have been better, but I can live with it. I think I figured up and I'm 8 points out of a Champions League spot right now.
Congrats. Very nice. Ashley, how'd you do?
Yeah, I had probably my best week, definitely points-wise my best week. I had 120. I won all of my head-to-heads, which I hadn't done yet this year, so that felt nice. And I got real nervous early because I was playing Patrick in head-to-head, and he had DK, Nani, and Austin on his bench.
Oof.
And so I thought I was dead in the water, but then I had Pepe on my bench, which was intentional, but I never thought that would hit like he did. He got a brace, so that was great. But yeah, I fell victim to a little bit of defender error as well. I saw a lot of people in Discord talking about doubling up or tripling up facetiously on Seattle defense, and I did not do that, but I did have one, and it was very surprising for me to see 2 games go by without a Seattle clean sheet. We haven't had that yet this season. But everybody else hit for me. Thanks to Blaine for talking me off the ledge about captaining Rui Diaz and convincing me to captain Heel last minute before rosters locked, so that saved me a bunch of points too. But yeah, Nani, a lot of the guys that did really well, so pretty good week for me.
I unfortunately had more faith in Rui Diaz than you all did, because I did not listen to that advice, and I went with Rui Diaz, which was a fine captain. I had, if you're in chat right now, share with me my double-digit point scoring friends in chat. My condolences. I got 96 points, which for this double game week and what I was hoping for, I'm pretty upset about. I think that's a pretty bad result this round. Been seeing some great scores though. High teens. Saw Shannon Sun got 127. I'm interested in knowing what his round rank was. That's probably pretty high up there. But no, I had a lot of problems with my defense. Nobody did well on my defense for me, except my goalkeeper. I got that keeperoo worked out for me with Orlando. And then Pozuelo actually just was a huge disappointment for what I had expected him to do, even though I'm not upset that he didn't do anything in the second game. But still, from fantasy-wise, 96 points, don't talk to me anymore. Horrible. Christian, how did you do? And also, you had a beef with the Brought to You By this week.
Oh, yeah, I didn't watch the Euros.
There you go. I didn't either, but I watched that Panenka, and that was amazing.
Yeah, Panenkas are delicious. Anyway, let's see. It's really rare that you get a score of 112 points and you drop in rank. I dropped 30 at least. I also started Pozuelo. I thought this was such a sure thing that I even put Io Akinola on my bench. And yeah, that didn't work. I scrubbed a mid, which I never do, to make everything work. And the reason that I did that was because I actually tripled up on defense. I started 5 defenders. I had to scrub one late because 2 of my bench hit, but I started Wagner, Lesnes, and Bizo, and then Yamar. Yamar is the only one that, he got a 5, which is respectable for not getting a clean sheet, but I thought I was pretty clever for doing that, frankly, and kind of worked out. I captained Heel. I took Reynoso. I started Reynoso. More on that later. I started Pozuelo and then I scrubbed a mid, and I had Fragapane on my bench. I took Rui Diaz, I started him, and I had Bo on the bench as well. The keeper rule was Austin. That worked, so I could scrub that. But anyway, yeah, I'm not really happy with the with the ranking that I got. Just sort of feel kind of like I need like to take a shower or something.
And I agree with Gene in chat right now, who says that the Pozuelo seemed to bury a lot of us. I think that's right. I mean, I think the main discussion that we had last week about Pozuelo was, I believe Blaine had said he had just come back. He was concerned about that, and for going full minutes in both games. And I think a lot of us were thinking, we don't care if he goes full minutes in both games. We just want him to go minutes against FC Cincinnati. And so not going to Cincinnati was the biggest shocker, because I didn't care. Like, personally, I didn't care about the first game, and I saw he had a low score, and I was like, whatever. But then not being able to go to Cincinnati was I think what did in a lot of people there. And the clean sheets, there were definitely clean sheets this round. This wasn't one where we were just shocked about the clean sheets. I think we were all hoping for something with Orlando. That's why a lot of us had the Austin goalkeeper Rue going on there. The biggest shock for me, and I guess I've jumped into our reactions already from right here. So for those of you in chat, feel free to share your takeaways from this round as well. Minnesota getting the double clean sheet. I think that is a big surprise for many of us. Some of these others, I mean, Philadelphia got a clean sheet against Columbus. I don't think that was crazy, but maybe we thought that there was some potential for Columbus to get something through there. I think a lot of people had hoped for more with New York City and Atlanta, but may have gone with Tinnerholm as their defender, which would have hurt you with your chances there. The Cincinnati results on the floor, just didn't see a double clean sheet for Cincinnati at all, especially since I was banking against Pozuelo scoring. This is definitely one of those rounds where I am incredibly frustrated about my fantasy result, but super happy for Cincinnati to come not only away with a win, but 2 wins. And Ashley had asked me before the show started, was this the first time Cincinnati ever had a double? Yes, it is. And I would have been happy if they had gotten a single. So that was, I mean, having seen that Chicago goal get called back, I was just like, yes, thank you. But yeah, I mean, other clean sheets. LA got one. They've had struggles on defense, so I think we could all have seen Dallas scoring. A lot of these games that did end up in clean sheets, I think we all thought, well, we could see how something would have happened, and they weren't as high up necessarily on the percentage chances. I mean, I'm more concerned about Columbus getting double goose eggs this round than really anything. But an interesting round, but I'll stop talking there, and let's get thoughts from the rest of you fine people. Let's Ashley.
Yeah, definitely an interesting round for fantasy. Pepe, DK, both getting braces, 2 forwards that I don't think any of us thought were going to start, let alone start and produce that way.
I did.
You did?
Oh,
okay.
Claim it. That's right.
DK.
Yes.
Not Pepe.
I wasn't sure if he was fit yet, and Tesho's form was good. So that was something that for me, I mean, we knew he was going to come back and play. He'd been doing so well overseas, but to bag a brace and then to start again, I think he's someone that definitely needs to stay on people's fantasy radar. And then both Seattle and New England kind of brought down a peg. They both tied/lost to 2 teams that were in the bottom of the West. When I saw Discord blow up a little bit when I was at the game before Seattle tied it up, but when they were losing. I don't know if this has a ton of fantasy implications, those 2 teams. I think that they're still kind of going to cruise through, but it's definitely something to take note of. The Seattle defense has been one of the biggest fantasy points producers for us so far, and this week they really flopped. And then this Austin shutout streak, I don't know with their schedule how much longer they can keep it up, but I think fantasy-wise, a lot of people have been looking at Austin defense but not taking them consistently. Stuver's one of the most expensive keepers in the game right now, which is impressive. So that Austin defense is something that really impressed me this weekend, and is something I am going to pay attention to going forward for sure.
All right. Sorry, I was getting some text messages. I'm trying to have a guest spot on Matt Pollard's Colorado podcast, but we sort of got some of our dates mixed up, and I was getting some messages from him being like, "Where are you?" And I'm like, "I'm on my show. I'm doing my show. Sorry." Anyway, Blaine, your takeaways.
Yeah, I think Ashley hit on one of them a little bit. It's kind of watch your matchups. We talked about it a little bit with Orlando. I was really high on them having a good pair of matchups, one of the best offensive weeks for players, and they got 7 goals on the double game week. I mean, can't complain with that at all. 5 against San Jose really helped. And then the other team I think we were really high on was New York, and they got 3 goals in both games. I mean, that's not terrible returns, and you want to look for those matchups and grab your guys. And like I said in the recap of the scores, I was looking at DK, but I was worried about a rain postponement taking away one of my games for a guy who's somewhat unproven, and I didn't know what it was going to look like on the second leg.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there. Hold on. If we're talking about DK and talking about proven, I think we need to have some kind of qualifier attached to that statement.
Hasn't started yet this year.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hasn't started. Tesho's form was really good. I didn't know if DK was giving Tesho a break in the midweek, and they were going to go right back to Tesho on the weekend. There's a whole lot there. If I don't get that DK game on the first one, I don't want DK. Just not knowing what he's going to do in MLS and not knowing how much he's going to play and what rotation's going to be in there. But DK versus San Jose, I really wanted. I wanted Tesho versus San Jose. That was my number 1 forward pick last week, was Tesho going into San Jose. And so I was willing to do a like for like, but I backed off because of the postponement. Didn't want to take a chance on that because I've had that happen to me before and it's cost me big points. So on those double game weeks, know your matchups and kind of play into them because they tend to hold up. Unfortunately, for a couple of teams like Seattle, it didn't quite work out the way we wanted it to. But all things considered, JP got a 7, Rui Diaz got an 8. I mean, they got some respectable scores. It's just in comparison to everybody else, they weren't good. Or they weren't great. Always Captain Heel is becoming a thing. On the road, at home, doesn't matter. He's putting up big numbers. I think he had a bad game by his standard against Dallas and still got an 8. Like, that's an 8 for your captain when Rui Diaz is getting an 8, when your other premium guys are getting 7 to 10. You can live with that 1 week, so you don't miss his midweek game where he gave you 38 points. Like, as a captain, like, yeah, you'll take that risk every time. And the defensive bonus points were huge this week. It was kind of make or break. Beasler had a good run with defensive points, plus he got a clean sheet. Bontas got an 8 without a clean sheet. Yamar, compared to some of the others, if you went with him over one of the other guys, you got 2 or 3 extra points just because he's picking up those bonus points. When you're unsure, when you've got some of those bonus points do add up fast. You may lose a little bit of ceiling, but you really pad that floor. And I think that was a huge difference maker across the board this week. I saw a lot of teams where there were some 2s and 3s and their scores were under 110. And then I saw a lot of them that if they got the clean sheets, they were over 120. But you were in the high 1-teens if you got those defensive bonus points this week.
That I agree with. I do not agree with a couple of your takes, though. On DK, we have to remember that this guy just came back from the UK. He's in form. He's fit. He may not have played with these players, but the guy is on fire. Okay, so I expected this, and I think probably the coach expected it too. That's why he got 2 starts. So that's my take on DK. I mean, like, he's absolutely got to be on everybody's radar, at least for consideration. The other thing that well, shoot, I just forgot the other thing that I was going to disagree with. you had another hot take, Blaine, and I wanted to jump in, but I was polite, and now I forgot what it was. Anyway,
Matchups. Always Captain Gill. Bonus
yeah,
points.
always Captain
Okay.
Neal. That I have the same sentiment generally, but I don't agree this week. I have a feeling, and
Save it for the captain picks.
yeah,
I think I know where you're going.
There we go. There we
Yeah.
go. Big spoilers.
Okay.
What else
All
were
right,
your
well, all right,
takeaways, though?
all right. Sorry. Minnesota is legit. They're undefeated in 6. They've only conceded 2 goals in that time. Adrian Hunu is the leader in shots on goal per 90. And Fragapane is what I envisioned Brian Rodriguez was trying to be. And plus Lode and Gregory are back from international duty. So I have a feeling that if Fragapane doesn't get suspended for that stupidity, I have a feeling that Minnesota is going to like blow some people up. Anyway, that was my huge takeaway. Of course, it's a homer one.
Sure.
There's a lot of fatigue around the league. I don't know if anybody else noticed this, but usually, the second game in a double game week, people tend to look pretty gassed, pretty tired. I thought it was like next level this week, personally. I saw guys walking. I saw guys bent over, like on, hands on their knees, bent over, panting, like a lot. And so, fixture congestion in this league is probably the biggest characteristic in MLS fantasy that you have to pay attention to.
Yeah, that's
Because
great.
the rotation's going to be crazy. And that kind of leads into my next thing, which is there's this thing on Discord where there's a group of us that are trying to fade the chalk picks, which is, if you don't know what chalk is a pick that everybody seems to have.
The chalkboard, usually available on the MLSFI Twitter.
Yeah, that too. but like everybody, you're gonna see what our picks are, and a lot of people are gonna follow our picks, and they're gonna become chalk. So in fantasy, especially in this league, you're gonna want to look for differentials, and you can't do that if you keep following the chalk picks. So a few of us are getting pretty crazy, and you'll see with my picks why I'm saying this. In fading the chalk. Now, it's really important if you want to actually gain in rank or catch up. The other thing I'll say is that trust your instincts. I mean, like, if you have a feeling about a player, I had a feeling about DK and I had a feeling about Manny on Tuesday night. I went on Discord. I saw all of the chatter about, I'm fading these guys because they're attackers and it's sloppy and they won't score. And my instinct was, no, attackers score in rain. It's the defense that slips and lets the ball by. It's not the attacker. So I should not have faded them. I faded them. That's why I ended up with 112 points and dropped 30 ranks.
No, I definitely agree with that.
Always trust your instincts.
I agree with that. A lot of the information that we put out there as far as chalkboard picks, they're supposed to be helpful and provide options with people. That's why we also have the Discord picks that come out, which Christian put together for us this last week, and maybe he'll keep helping with that going forward. But those are just tools that we do to help people last minute, or every now and then we do get some differentials and disagreements that we put out there. But definitely I went with Nani this week. I saw people talking against him, but I thought he was good. He had a good thing going before his suspensions, and I didn't see any reason why that wasn't going to continue. That's also why I went with Rui Diaz, because I knew a lot of people were captaining Heel, which made total sense. I didn't disagree with anything Blaine said in our chats about that, but I thought, part of the double game week is this boom or bust kind of element to it, and I was sort of willing to take the risk. I was a little bit behind after a poor first start. Didn't help. Don't talk to me. But I was like, Rui Diaz has the potential for a hat trick. Like Blaine was saying in our chat, he's going to have to get a hat trick round in order to be up at this level. And I'm like, I could see Rui Diaz is a guy that I could see come away with a hat trick in a round like that. And so I was willing to risk that. It didn't work out, but there's an example of I went against the grain, went against the chalk for differential captain in this situation. But yeah, no, that's a fantastic takeaway. Especially we're at the point. I guess we're about midway through the second quarter qualifying round for the Champions League. We've spent the first quarter building our budget. This is a quarter where you can start looking for differentials and seeing some of those guys who are performing during double game week call-ups, who are being brought in when someone needs to be rested. You can start identifying those players you can fall back on. That's a cool element of this Champions League quarter qualifying system that I don't think we've mentioned yet, is it gives you the ability to sort of learn into the game. If you can build your budget and learn who helps you with that, then you can sort of, when the double game weeks start to hit, which is usually around the second quarter, you can start seeing who's going to rotate in, who's going to rotate out, who might be a differential player. You can start leaning on under the right situations, and then for those final two rounds, you can really just start hitting it hard for pushing into the top 50 or making your move there. So it's a cool system, I think, from a league learning and education point of view.
Reed, I want to address one thing Christian said, because I think our listeners could really benefit from it. One thing I would do if you struggle with this or you just don't want to copy everything that's said is go with your gut and make your team before you listen to our player picks. Mm-hmm. Definitely go identify who you like most each week. And then if you've only found 3 midfielders that you're really sure about, then go to our chalkboard, then listen to our picks, see who we're talking about, see where we confirm what you've already done, and then listen to what we say as potential guidance for a couple more picks. You may listen to us and go, no, I don't agree with that at all, and move away from our picks. That's all fine. Because I'll be honest, I had Paz on my bench this week. I was in for it. I thought he was going to have a good game. I put him on the bench against Busio because I like Busio's floor, and I knew if Paz doesn't hit, I've got a fallback that I want to go with. And if Paz hits, I'm not going to miss out. We get enticed by some of these moves like that, and it's easy to do, but go with your gut on a lot of those. If we're all talking up Paz and you don't feel it, don't put him in there and take a 3 in 45 minutes. Like, I think anybody who was out on Paz before listening to us should have stayed out, and they probably did and didn't get hit with that one because that was a price drop too. I mean, that was bad all the way around. But like Christian said, if you were big on Orlando, and I was huge on Orlando going into this, you ride that out. Don't let it, what anybody says, change that. Just go with what you think on your team, and use us as kind of a supplemental resource to fill in the other picks. But I would highly recommend that everybody make their own picks ahead of time before just listening to what we have to say, and then making your picks based on what we have to say, because we don't get it right every time.
Yeah, one thing I'd add to that though is that the don't listen to what anybody says thing, that's not entirely accurate. Like, listen to what people say, but think about it. I mean, like, does that negate the reasons why you want this player? You know, like, don't let anybody talk you out of it unless it's a really good reason. Like, a good reason would be like, well, he's injured. You know? There are reasons why you'd want somebody to talk you out of a player. So anyway, that's just be reasonable. I mean, like, think about it and go with your gut and look at stats and spot trends and do your best to pick the best players you can. And if it's against what everybody else is saying, you have a very good chance of actually making up ground if that player actually hits. So that's what we mean by fading the chalk. So
yeah, that's a fantastic takeaway. Great recap. We're going to have to move on though to our housekeeping section. All right, housekeeping. First, congratulations to our league winners. No change for a lot of these. We still have Brian Coral FC leading our MLS Fantasy Boston Discord Classic League. We have SD Ibar FC leading our Reddit League, and we have Garth Butchers leading our Patreon Open League. So congrats to you all for maintaining your positions. Over to our head-to-heads. Mostly 2/3 is the same. Discord is still a three-way tie at 9-0-0. Patreon is still a three-way tie at 8-0-0. I saw some of those scores in the chat, and people mentioning that they saw at least one that said they won their head-to-head by 2 points. I love it. I love seeing that. That's why I love the head-to-heads so freaking much. I lost all of mine, but they're still fun. I love them. Love them so much. The big upset in the MLSFI Patreon Invitational League. We no longer have a tie for first place. Vamos Charlotte FC, who is managed by our good friend Mito, and he is now the leader. He has unseated Skylar. He is 8-0-1. Skylar was dealt his second loss, and so Mito is sitting at the top of that table. An excellent player with a lot of FPL experience as well. So not a surprise to see Mito there. So congrats for that right now. As far as this round 10, games start Thursday, July 1st at 9:30 Eastern Standard Time, 9:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So that's a Thursday. So we're not having this midweek. It's closer to the weekend, but don't forget, don't let Thursdays sneak up on you, because it's not. I know we're used to Fridays, Saturdays, and sometimes Wednesdays. Thursday is kind of an odd day, but it's still one of the later rounds. That game is going to start out with Austin versus Portland, and they're the only team playing. They will be ideal players for switcheroos, but also to help activate those. Nobody's on a double game week, and New York City FC is on a bye. So you'll want NYC FC players to be able to activate your switcheroos. I think you'll find some good switcheroo potential from this first game. And I've already checked, there are 2 4.0 defenders for New York City FC, so I know a lot of us like to go 3 in the back and have those be the switcheroo options. You can do that with an easy budget for this round. So those are the basics. We're going to get to the call-ups and suspensions and everything, but before we get that, Christian had mentioned Fragapane, and Ashley and I discussed this before the show started. So Ashley, I'll let you give that update, and then Blaine, you can go ahead and go on with the rest of the updates.
Yeah, there was accusation of racist comments against Fragapane in the Portland game, and MLS released a statement relatively soon after saying that they were reviewing it. I would be inclined to think a suspension might happen, and that is an implication for fantasy. So that's just something to keep on your radar from a fantasy points perspective. He's someone that I think everyone would be paying attention to. But based on that situation, he might not be in the team this week, or for some weeks, or might be there. We don't know. But I'm treating this just like a call-up or an injury. I'm paying attention to it as rosters come out.
Yeah, I would add no official statement linking it to Fragapane.
Correct.
That's what we're picking up around the internet is, I think.
I watched the game, so I saw it.
Yeah.
But he was the player that Diego chartered. So it's not anybody else.
Yeah.
You're right. The MLS has not named him. Neither did the Timbers. Neither did Minnesota. But that's just something to pay attention to for possible suspension.
Yeah, definitely. That was on my list for this week. More of the same going around. Blanco did play, but he was then rested. I think there's an abundance of caution there. Portland's playing well enough without him. No reason to rush him back and risk further injury and lose him longer. Better to miss 3 or 4 more weeks than miss the rest of the season again. So I would shy away from him until we know for sure he's starting and going about 70, 75 minutes. I think he got 45 on the week or 30 minutes on the week, something, not much. Pozuelo's another one that I'm concerned about. and probably going to need to fade for a little bit longer. He played 45 in the midweek and then didn't feature at all. I would kind of assume with a player of his caliber, 45 in the midweek would see him play the weekend game. They definitely needed him, losing 2-0 to Cincinnati. You'd think if he was healthy enough to travel, which he wasn't, he would have come in at least at halftime to try to salvage that game. The other big one I know is Alan Polito got cleated and split the top of his foot open. He has stitches on that. They're saying it's going to be short term, but stitches on the ankle are known to tear if you work them too much. So I'm expecting a game or two for him just to be on the safe side. Nothing official from the team saying he's out, but I can't see him going this week just after getting stitches.
I got some questions in Discord about Nuhu. They were flying in while I was at the game, and so I wasn't really able to respond. But Nuhu is day to day, and he failed a game day fitness test on Sunday. So I don't know that anybody would particularly plan to pick up Seattle on the road in Colorado this week, but it looks like Nuhu will probably be out a little while longer, but it doesn't look like a long term.
Yeah, and then I think our final one is a lot of our Copa America players are starting to come back. I believe that includes Joseph Martinez and several other big names. I do believe a few of them are still out longer, so keep an eye on that. I don't have a full rundown of who's coming back right away. I think MLS has the safety protocols. If you're an unvaccinated player, you have to sit 5 days from return. So depending, and I don't think we have any updated information on who is or isn't vaccinated, and I don't expect MLS to put that out. But just watch for those guys. You may think some of them are coming back, but they still may have safety protocols to go through. And I don't know about all the South American countries, whether they're going to make guys quarantine on their way out or not. So just keep that in mind. We should be getting some guys back, so watch those lineups. There's some big names that we definitely want back. Arriaga, I think, is on that list. Joseph Martinez for sure is on that list. And several others that we could really use back in the fantasy game. And they should be returning soon for the most part.
All right. Well, excellent. Thank you, everyone, for those bits of information. I think they would be very helpful and for that good breakdown of what could happen with Fragapane. Let's move on now to what I know everyone is so excited to hear, and that is our player picks for round 10. All right, player picks for round 10. Let's start out with the most promising games that we're looking forward to this week. Ashley.
Yeah, I hesitate to even say it, so I will just briefly say I'm excited for Minnesota San Jose. Christian, you can elaborate later. I'm excited for LA Galaxy against Kansas City. Those are the second and third place teams in the West. I think that should be a really interesting game for a little bit of fantasy, but also just general soccering. I'm excited for that one. Blaine?
Yeah, that Minnesota-San Jose game looks really tasty. I'm also really up on DCU versus Toronto. I think there's potential there. What I'm thinking is a better offense and an upswinging offense against a tanking defense right now. So loading up, and then for that same reason, I'm loving Montreal versus Miami in Montreal, or at wherever Montreal's calling home these days. It's a road game for Miami. That's all that matters. I'm really kind of up on that game too.
Are they in Florida too, though? So is it a road game?
It's a road game.
Okay.
It's not their stadium. It's a road game.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think that's a good source for some differentials this week. I agree. I like the DC United game. I'm really looking forward to this Austin-Portland game, like I mentioned beforehand. I think there's some good differential or some switcheroo options there, maybe with Austin, or at least a keeperoo option. I think that's maybe one you could go for with them. A lot of these games, I'm just interested in seeing the results. Of course, the FC Cincinnati game. I know Houston is making some moves with their new ownership that does involve defense. I don't know if those are going to be in place yet. So that's a game that interests me beyond Cincinnati and more into what is going on in Houston. What is that investment and how is that going to impact some games going forward.
They signed a DP today, yeah?
Did it come out? I knew that they were the last extra time I was listening to. They were talking about it, but I hadn't had a chance to check the wire today.
I'm sure I'm pronouncing wrong, but Spencer and I had some real solid Fountains of Wayne, like back and forth. Or is it Fountains of Wayne? It might be the wrong band. Teenage Dirtbag, you guys know it. I'm sure that's not how you pronounce his name, but I didn't see anything different. But Houston sent that out today that they'd signed him and that Christian Ramirez was getting traded to someplace. So.
Yeah, they were working on some deals for like a low-level DP. It wasn't a DP at first, and they were going to do it like a cheap DP. I don't know, whatever that means. But yeah, I'm interested in seeing Houston with some of this investment to see what they look like, just to figure out more of what I want to, because they've surprised me some this year. So I want to see some more. Christian.
You guys all know what I'm going to say.
We saved it for you.
Versus San Jose. That looks mouth-watering, frankly. That's probably the only match that I could see multiple goal difference in the win this week.
Interesting take. It's a hot take.
Yeah, it's a hot take. It's a homer take. Take it for what it's worth. DC United versus Toronto is interesting too, for the same reasons everybody said. I like the Dallas-Vancouver matchup.
Sure.
Because Dallas is pretty strong at home defensively. And on the road, not so much. But at home, they haven't lost a game at home. So I tend to go with the home team. So I'm picking Dallas there. So those are mine.
Good. Excellent.
Chimed in. Patrick corrected us. Montreal, Miami is being played at Red Bull Arena.
Oh.
For reals?
Yeah. I think Montreal's been stationed up there.
Was it? Okay.
All right, well, let's move on to our keepers and defenders. Blaine.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Christian here a little bit. I've got Stuver in the first one because I've got the money to spend, put him on the bench, and I hope he hits. And then I'm rolling to Tyler Miller. I like what I've seen from Minnesota. I think this is one of the better defensive matchups for a clean sheet. I don't trust San Jose, and I really think Minnesota's putting it together as a team, and the defense is going to be there. I couldn't fault anybody for looking at FC Dallas on this game for other clean sheets. And then DC would be my other clean sheet shout this week. I don't like the way Toronto's playing, especially if Paz is out. And DC's been getting stronger every week. So those are kind of my clean sheet chances this week. Like those two keepers. I do have Austin in there for it. So I'm going with Beasler for bonus points again. I like Pines, decent price in DC, plus he gets forward. And then I'm probably going to run with Hollingshead. I really think this is a game where he's going to get forward a lot. I think he lined up as a left wing in the last game as well.
He did.
And so clean sheet for Dallas, plus Hollingshead lined up as a winger against Vancouver. I can live with that for sure. I was getting some stuff from Discord, and I guess I will put it here. Everybody was talking about Orlando. Do you take Austin for Orlando starting sheet? How many Orlando defenders do you want to go against Red Bull? I think Orlando's been kind of riding a bubble, and even though Austin is super cheap, I don't even think he's worth taking this week. But I like the way Red Bulls are attacking right now too, so I'm going to just squash everything and say avoid the Orlando bubble that we've seen on defense lately. I don't think it's real, and I think it's about to burst.
Mm-hmm.
But I know Discord was all over that, and I told him I'd give a quick response to that because I'm seeing a lot of people about to fall into the Orlando trap. And if they get a clean sheet, I'll eat crow, but I just don't see it against this team.
That's fair. I mean, the Red Bulls are the middle of the pack as far as creating chances. 131 shots that they have total. They're usually much stronger on the defensive side of what you're looking for instead of the offensive.
Yeah.
Isn't Clark? Is Clark unavailable? Did he have a surgery or something?
Clark, emergency appendectomy.
There we
and
go.
He should be back, but Fabio's rounding into form. Klimala has come on so strong for them. And Costas Jr. has been out, but I think he's supposed to be back as well. So you're getting all of their preferred attackers coming in together right now.
Yeah.
All right, Christian, who do you have to add?
Oh, you skipped Ashley.
I did skip Ashley. I thought it was Ashley. Who do you have to add? I was thinking in my head, and I was looking ahead to do some of the consensus picks, and I just skipped over it. Ashley, keepers and defenders.
I like Stuber as well, mostly for the game position and for also what Atlanta has been putting out. I'm actually looking at Diop or Hamid for my starting keeper if Stuber doesn't hit, and that is not a shade on Tyler Miller because I love Tyler Miller. But Diop got 10 last week. I kind of like these Montreal DC games as well. I think San Jose looks awful, but in the past, and by in the past I mean in the years past, whenever they have a couple big implosions, they tend to bounce back. I don't really think they're going to do that against Minnesota, but I just kind of like the Montreal and then the DC matchup a little bit better for keepers, and they're all similar price. So I think any of those three would be a good shout. I like, and Christian I'm sure can elaborate on this a little better, I like just about any Minnesota defender this week. I think you need to have one. I'm looking at some Austin defenders on my bench. I also like Hollingshead this week. And then I am considering Brooks Lennon. Have a couple good games in a row now. I know that Atlanta game might not be the most appealing, but I just like where he's playing positionally. I know they're on the road, and I know Chicago just put up a bunch of goals for the first time, but I'm interested in him maybe coming off the bench, probably not starting, but he's just someone that keeps popping into my head for this week.
Excellent. Christian.
I am going with Hamid as on the bench and Austin as the fallback. I think Blaine's going to end up eating a lot of crow about his prediction about Orlando. I'm also picking Mensa, and I'll get into that a little later. Pines, that's a pretty chalky pick, actually. I think a lot of people are going to have.
Yeah, but shame on Ashley for not picking Pines, because there is not a week, nary a week goes by of this podcast that if we don't say something about Pines, and when I go to the chat and say, who do you all think? I have someone that's like, Pines.
Oh, that's Ranchinator.
Our Pines fan club is what we have. MLSFI, that's next week's MLSFI, the unofficial Pines fan club. That's what it is. Sorry, continue though. Pines.
It's all right. It's all right. It's your show, man. I also have Antonio Carlos for the bonus points and the clean sheet that is inevitable. Also, Lennon is on my list. I'm not sure about him either, but I look at Chicago. They have the second worst goals for. They only have 7 goals scored all year. And half of those were yesterday or this week. So I'm thinking, Madron is not going to repeat that, frankly, because he'll probably get slotted back in. Probably won't be out on the wing.
Said the name Barrett all year either, right?
Yeah, I mean, Chicago just doesn't have it in the attack right now.
Yeah, no.
Hollingshead, only because he might be playing out of position again. I wanted to just put Chicago's Pineda out there for people too as a kind of a differential. He's playing out of position a lot in the midfield. He might actually do something. Okay, don't know. Minnesota defense. If I didn't take 3 attackers from Minnesota this week, I'd definitely have a Minnesota defender. Either Miller or DeBasi or Metner. One of those 3.
Interesting. You guys have covered everything I was looking at. I've looked at both of those Keeperoo options with Minnesota as an option, but I tend to be like you, Christian. I'd rather lean towards the Minnesota attackers this week. I was including Metanire in that list for myself and having the defender, the midfielder, and a forward option. And then also Pines was a nice little budget person that I thought had some potential. So I'm utilizing 2 defender switcheroo options. So I was just kind of going bare bones with some guy. Hollingshead was my third one. Those are the guys I'm looking at. So I like a lot of the same teams you guys have. Not a lot to add. So let's move on to our midfielder picks. The consensus picks that we have from all of us are Heel and Fragapane. And so our Fragapane, I will let you all... you can leave those off if you want to, or you're welcome. Blaine, you may have some more to add about Heel, I feel, for some of the comments that you've made. So feel free. But Ashley, kick us off.
Yeah, I still like Nani this week after the week he had this past week at home. I think he's worth keeping around. I'm also looking at Acosta. I know that Cincinnati isn't the ultimate of consistency, but I consider him a differential pick. Maybe he's a chalk pick, and Christian will tell me that. But I like him this week as well. And then, yes, like you said, I also like Heel and Fragapane. But one thing I'm wondering is, if we do see Fragapane hit with that suspension, do you roll right into Reynoso, who's a similar price? Are we looking to see, if Laud and Gregus are back in the lineup from Europe? Is that where we would just roll to? So that's something I'm kind of just considering is if he's not starting and he is suspended, who to switch to in that Minnesota lineup. My gut says Reynoso, but I hope Christian will help me out.
Well, I'm glad you asked, Ashley. Yeah, definitely. I have both of them, Reynoso and Fragapane. I was talking earlier on Discord about I'm not entirely sure Reynoso is the automatic go-to pick anymore
I don't think so.
for Minnesota. He's sharing not all of them. I mean, it's like a 3-to-1 ratio or a 4-to-1 ratio of corners and set pieces that Fragapane is getting on the short end of it. But Reynoso is sharing them, and he's not generating quite the bonus points that I expected him to be generating. So, that said, this is a really good home matchup, and I kind of expect him to go off. So I have them both. I also have Nani for lack of imagination. And on the other hand, I like Rusnak. If you take a look at Rusnak's stats for the last 2 games, you'll see he's back.
No, he took a penalty.
Oh, no, it's not just that. He's got bonus points.
Yeah.
He got 7 bonus points last game. 7 attacking bonus points.
I don't know if I'd say he's back with 1 game of crazy bonus points.
Well, he was always back. He just decided not to play soccer for the first 8 weeks.
Yeah, I agree.
His last 3 games, he has 2 assists and he has 1 goal in those games, and then he has had a handful of crosses and key passes over his last 4 games, with Houston Dynamo being the bulk of that. 8 key passes, 6 crosses, 3 big chances created. So that BC stat, you get 1 point per big chance created, and that's the new one. That's what he's not had historically. He's been doing well with key passes. His crosses have picked up lately, but it's those big chances created. I would say that's sort of the unreliable one, but that would still, if you took those away, he would have a 5, a 10, and a 9 in his last 3 games, which is pretty solid.
Yeah, and like I said, you look at his stats, they're better, in my opinion, than pretty much like a Zelarayan, for example. Rusnak is kicking his butt over the last few weeks. Seriously. I mean,
It's true.
I just, I'm not a big RSL fan. I usually ignore them. But I looked at Rusnak and I was like, holy crap, he's got to go on my team. So anyway, if I chicken out, I'm gonna look at Acosta from Cincinnati as well, because I think he's sneaking up on a lot of people, and I think I mentioned that on the last time I was on this podcast that I think Acosta is going to be a viable option this season, and that's when I think Reed kind of had kittens, but I really think he's legit. I think he's a great pick this week.
If you looking at Acosta stats, he has played 7 games, and in only 2 of those games has he had fewer than at least 4 key passes, which that's a bonus right there. He tends to get a handful of crosses. He's been doing better with those his last few games, and then like Rusnak, he's been getting a couple of big chances created since the last 2 games, or this last round. He got a couple of big chances created. So that's one of those stats you got to be careful of, because it's not going to be there. I actually don't even know the exact definition of it myself, because it is sort of almost like an icing on the cake stat. It's like, yeah, it pops up there every now and then.
It's a subjective stat.
And exactly too. So
the other thing I want to say about Acosta is this matchup is pretty tasty for him, because Houston likes to play on the counter. They like to give possession to the other team. So I think Acosta's going to see a lot of the ball.
And it's important to point out that Rusnak's big game came against Houston, and so if he is getting those crosses and key passes because they were allowing it with their setup, and that's what Costa's good at, yeah, I think that's an excellent comparison to look at for this week.
You all need to stop making me double guess on Acosta.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
Who are you looking at, Blaine?
Well, that's perfect segue right there, because I've got Fragapane in there. But if he doesn't start, if he's suspended, I'm thinking about rolling completely away from this midfield. I have not been as impressed with Reynoso. I know he's had an injury. It's unfair to judge him too much there, but I'm looking at the whole thing, and I just don't know if I trust them enough this way. Maybe Unu up top is going to make a difference, but I would be tempted to roll away from that game completely. And Busio is on my list as a replacement. Krylock is on my list as a potential starter or a replacement for Fragapane. So there's some options here that I like. It's just I don't know where I'd go. One thing to point out in this conversation, and I think I said it last week, and I've got some better numbers now. When Fragapane is playing, I don't think Reynoso is nearly as viable as he once was. His 3 starts with Fragapane, he has, 2 starts. He's got a 6 and a 7, which isn't terrible, but Fragapane's had a 12 and an 8 in that same amount of time. Just when you look at the eye test, Fragapane's really running the show. Everything's kind of going through him. He looks like the more dynamic player, and he's the much better goal threat because of where he plays. I think, and their style, he's better on the assists, better on the goals. I think you're just going to get better, consistent scores, which is another reason why I kind of want to shy away from Reynoso this week as well. But with those guys out of the way, my other list, I have Nani in there again. I don't trust Red Bull's defense nearly as much as other people. I have not been as impressed, and I like the way Orlando's playing right now when Nani's in there. Nani's been putting up good scores all season. He's had a few rough games, but for the most part, he's been better than average, and so I'm willing to roll with him. I love Gressel against Toronto this week. He's been one of the better playmakers for DC, and really been pretty good all season. When he gets his good matchups, he puts up really good scores, and you just have to avoid the bad ones. I wouldn't fault anybody for taking Areola instead of Gressel. And then I'm kind of flip-flopping around that last pick a little bit. Krylock is definitely on my radar. But if Joseph Martinez is back, I actually like Moreno from Atlanta a lot. He's had some really good form, and I don't trust Chicago's defense even at home. I think Moreno could be one of those crazy differential picks that really goes off if Martinez is back.
What is it about the Red Bulls defense that you don't trust? Because just looking at some of the numbers, like I said, they're one of 3 teams who've allowed fewer than 100 shots this year. They've allowed 98. The only team better is New York City FC, who's only allowed 88 so far with their number of games played.
I mean, clean sheet against Toronto doesn't say much. Clean sheet against Nashville, who was missing a few players. And then a clean sheet against Atlanta, who was missing missing a few of their key playmakers. I'm not seeing what I like from them. They may not be giving up a ton of shots, but when they're playing against offensive-minded teams, they're giving up quality chances from what I can see. Sporting put 2 on them. Let's see. Philly got 1 by them. New England dropped 3 on them. Orlando scored on them once this year. New England dropped another 3 on them. When they're playing against offensive-minded teams, they tend to give up goals. This is a road game against an Orlando team that is clicking. If it's DK, if it's Tesho doing what he's been doing, I don't know. I just see goals in this one, and I don't know what it is. I just don't trust that defense enough. They get clean sheets when they should get clean sheets. Nashville missing players, Atlanta missing players, Toronto missing a ton of players. Chicago's not scoring on anybody.
I will say the Sporting game was the first game of the season, and then the only other 2 games that they've dropped 3 against have both been New England, who are the powerhouse of the
LA
East.
Galaxy dropped 3 on them in game 2.
LA Galaxy.
That was at LA. Yeah, I mean that
Yeah.
game was very.
Hit the wrong player.
I'll tell you what I don't like about the Red Bulls defense if you want to know.
Go for
Their goalkeeper.
it. Fair.
Um,
There we go. That's what I should have looked at.
especially if they're up against accurate shooters.
And that's kind of what I meant by saying, like, they may not be giving up a ton of goals or a ton of shots, but when they do give them up, they're good chances.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you can beat this defense, you've got a great chance on goal. I would love to see, and I don't have the stats, I'd love to see the conversion rate against them compared to other teams that are giving up a ton more shots. Sure, it's not going to give you bonus points for attacking players. Sorry. But I just don't see this team stopping the powerhouse offenses.
That's fair, and we could put DK possibly in that list. So yeah, I don't have anything else to add. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, Nani's been tearing teams up.
Yeah.
Michelle's come in, done really well. Mueller or Pereira, both of those guys are breaking teams down. I think there's too many playmakers. You can't just double up on the 1 or 2 guys that are going to come at you. You've got to watch 4 or 5 angles, and that's where I think Red Bull really falls apart.
Shannon disagrees with you about the keeper, so you better answer her in chat. So. Because
I'm ignoring Shannon, dang it.
No. Shannon's good people. Let's go on to our forwards. Oh, I'm sorry. I have nothing else to add except not Pozuelo for midfield. There we go. That's that. I love the Acosta pick. Forwards. The only consensus pick that we have right now is Hunu. I'm going to go with that. That's the only consensus pick.
Correct.
Yay! That's the consensus pick that we have. So, Christian, who else are you looking at for forward?
Chicharito. I have not taken Chicharito all year. I feel like taking him now. That's always going to depend on if Izamat Mirin is starting or not. If he's not in the lineup, definitely feel better about the Chicharito pick. I've got Pepe in there right now, but that could change.
All right, Blaine.
Yeah, I trashed him enough. I got to go with DK again this week, along with Hunu. I mean, like, if he's starting, I want him against this one. I think this is just a game where he's going to tear him up. But yeah, there's that. And then my third one's kind of a rotation. It's kind of up in the air. I like Ola Kamara if he starts. And that's a big if there, but that's third game of the week. I don't trust Toronto's defense again, so I like that one. And if he's not there, I can easily roll it over to Polito. Not Polito, Shallowy for that Shallowy's tearing it up. I think this is another game where he's just going to be able to get enough of the ball and make things happen. But I couldn't fault anybody for going Pepe against Vancouver or grabbing one of these other guys. It's just, I think that's the way I'm looking at it. But I like Ola Kamara a lot for this.
Yeah, he was someone that I was looking at as well. I liked your Gressel pick from before with the midfielder section. Ashley.
Yeah, I like Chicharito this week as well. I briefly talked about this last week that I felt like we weren't giving him enough of a platform with the lineup of who he was playing in this double game week. And he sure showed us, didn't he, with Player of the Week and 3 goals in 2 games. And so I like him. I like him back at home. I liked him last week. I just liked some other strikers more. And then I obviously like, oh no, who knew? You guys just said it 8 times and I was afraid I was going to say it wrong. I think that he's definitely a good striker to have. And then I have Pepe on my bench right now, just like I did this past week. He come off with what just looked like cramps, and he hasn't been fully fit all year. So he's on one of the only Sunday games, which is something that makes me the tiniest bit apprehensive. If for some reason he's actually hurt and he doesn't end up playing, I don't like to waste a bench spot. So I might go DK with him. I keep going back and forth between the two of them for my bench strikers. So we'll see. But I do like them both.
Yeah, we have some overlap. I looked at Chicharito. I've considered Vela as well for this round, just maybe against RSL on that. But I think I lean more towards Chicharito for that home game with this. And I also was bouncing around Ola Kamara. I like DK as well. I can see the Pepe pick as an option against Vancouver. I think you have a lot of options this week. That's sort of what I'm getting at is this is definitely a position where I think you can find some good differentials from what we've thrown out there. But I think Hunu is a great one. 7.6 owned by 0.27% of all teams. So that could be a chalkboard differential, which it depends on who you are playing against. That's how different you might be. I mean, it's 0.27% of players in the game, but if we're talking about this fantasy community, which tends to be a lot of these people who are going to be in that top 50, top 100, that is probably going to be a little bit higher percentage. Okay, let's go on to this switcheroo options. This is a little. We have some ability to do some switcheroo. So who are you looking at, Ashley?
Yeah, again, I'm going back and forth between Pepe and DK. I like Mihailovich for Montreal. At home, I think it's kind of hard to know who's going to produce for Montreal sometimes, but he's 7.8. He's had pretty decent production this year, just kind of flown under the radar. And then I'm also looking at Gressel for DC as a bench midfielder, perhaps. And then I mentioned this when we talked about defenders, but I'm also going back and forth between a Austin defender or Brooks Lennon as my bench defender spot. So, yeah.
Good deal. Blaine.
Yeah. Ola's kind of my bench forward that I've got. I think he's my least sure of the 3 I said, or the 4 I said. Kolmanich for Austin. If you're going to run a bench defender, I really like him. He's on set pieces. Potential for a lot of bonus points, but he's not as steady as a Beasler for that team. So that's why I throw him there. I'm not the guy to run bench defenders at all. I tend to run 3 starters and leave them, and then use my switcheroos for attacking-minded players, more in an auto-roo style. But I like Kolmanich a lot. Areola is another one. I said Gressel earlier. Areola is a little bit cheaper. Putting up decent numbers, it kind of depends. Either one of them could have a bigger day. But I like Areola on the bench. And then the other guy who's fallen to $6 million now is Rubio Rubin. We have not liked LAFC's defense this year very much. And I guess I forgot earlier, Blackman is out with a red card as well. He picked up one in that game. So I don't necessarily like this, but I know Christian said Rusnak is a midfielder. I said Krylock is a midfielder this week. if you're feeling RSL, Rubin is not a bad shout at $6 million to throw on your bench and see what happens.
Last time I did that, I regretted it. Just saying.
I did too, but I mean, if
I make a lot of picks by what they did last time, so I don't think that that's a bad.
I mean, what we really should be doing, we should rename this section from switcheroo options to Spencer's team and just let him lead the way at this.
But I mean, if we go by getting burned the last time, you end up like Reed and never taking Barrios.
That's right.
And
Never
this is
take
out of, like,
Barrios.
13 or 15
Never.
points.
Never take Barrios.
Yeah.
Never. Pozuelo's on
That's why you
my
have a
list.
bench.
Heat by Pozuelo's on my short
Just
list.
for that, I'm taking Barrios.
You're welcome to. Well, who are you looking at, Christian?
For switcheroo options,
Yes.
I think Benji Michel is an incredibly underrated forward in this game.
Correct.
I also think Maxi Arudi has the third most accurate shots on goal per 90 in the game. Believe it or not. He dives a lot, but he does. He has an accurate shot. I also like Jordy Mihailovich. He was actually in my team in like 2 of my drafts earlier today. I took him out because I frankly don't trust him that much, but he can return and he's probably the most likely candidate. I probably will swap Pepe with DK, but I have DK here. Julian Gressel, Heinz Ike is a great defender switch. Tyler Pasher, what is his name? Fabrice Picol? Fafa Picol. The thing that I want to like put a caveat out there about Houston players. Tab Ramos loves to take all of his midfielders off before they play 60 minutes. Just be warned about that.
You've been warned. Christian has given you the warning. Yeah, those are great. I think you guys have covered. I'd probably looking at Acosta as a switcheroo if you're going to go with him. I'd probably even look at maybe even Chicharito as a switcheroo. He's 9.7. That might be expensive, but I think with where a lot of people are with their value, that could be something you have as a switcheroo potential, especially if you're going to go with some budget defenders in the back. That does free up some money where you could have someone of that price point as an option. Gressel is one that I have on the bench right now as a switcheroo as well, and of course I have Stuver as a keeperoo option right there. And now finally, captains. I know Blaine, you have been waiting to talk about this. Who are you going with?
Because of the uncertainty, it's probably going to be Heel. But it's so hard to bet against a guy who's been that consistent with 8s and 10s. I have a hard time doing it. But if I see Fragapane is going, and this is the problem, is it's 2 different times. If there's no suspension announced, it's hard not to go with Fragapane this week, given the way he's been playing, his recent scores.
Sure.
But I mean, he's got an 8, a 12, and an 8. And one thing that came up in Discord's chat, and I don't have the exact numbers, but I think it's something like Heel has 55 key passes in MLS this season.
Mm-hmm.
Place has 32. Like, that's unreal. And with Bo back and seeming to be hitting, I don't know, any one of those passes is an assist at any given moment. And he's doing so much all the time. As much as I want to go with Fragapane, I think I'm just going to have to leave it on Heel until he proves me wrong. And, I may have a couple of weeks where he gets outscored by a couple of points, but I think in the long run, I'm going to come out ahead by just always going with him instead of trying to hit somebody who's better. Because last week, if you went Rui Diaz, if you went with Nani, even Nani cost you a point. But still, Nani Nani had what I consider to be the best offensive matchup outside of Patsy. So best midfielder offensive matchup, and he'll still beat him. I don't think you can go away from heel. It's always Captain Heel from now on. I will throw out my reservations about Fragapane, but it's going to be heel.
Christian, who are you looking at?
Yes. It's Fragapane. And here's why. It's solidly Fragapane. Because I'm a homer. No, that's not the reason. It's because he is incredibly aggressive. He's got pace, power, aggression. He's like everything you'd want a left winger to be. He's producing. How many people have come into this league and hit the ground like this guy?
Philadero.
Yeah.
Malo.
Yeah, but that's like a handful of people. Anyway, the point is, I'm really high on the guy. So, but here's the other reason. Because I am in this to win this, right? So I'm not going to make a stupid homer captain pick if I don't have like a reason for it.
Sure.
Carlos Heel is one of those players that looked absolutely gassed 2 nights ago when he was playing. Like he looked like he was going to fall over. Okay. Second of all, he got a 4 this last game. Okay. Third of all, he's in Columbus. He's playing in Columbus. Columbus has a good defense. Okay. They're tied for like the fewest goals given up in the league. I think it's 7. They have not lost at home. Okay. Columbus is, yeah, we often think of Columbus as this like juggernaut of attacking players, and they should be actually, frankly. But they're also a very solid defense. I think Valenzuela's healthy now. I think he played this past week. That defense is legit, and it's going to stop that New England attack. That's my prediction.
Yeah, Columbus is 7 goals for at home, 2 goals against at home in 4 games played.
Yeah, they seem to always give up this obligatory goal, but I have a feeling that that's because of the injuries on their back line. But their back line is healthy now, as far as I know.
Yeah, no, that's some good information. It's a very interesting little tidbit and a good takeaway from Columbus, because I know that's something that a lot of people have been concerned and looking at. Ashley, are you going to decide this debate?
I'm gonna make it worse. I'm just gonna throw a couple things out on both sides, honestly. When Carlos Hill played Columbus in Week 5, he got 9 points. I don't think that's a fantastic captain points, but it's not points that I would be upset about. That's 18 as a captain. And he put up an assist. That was without Bo healthy. And so I think Columbus's defense has been kind of patchworky in the sense that because of those injuries, they've been going back and forth, and they haven't put out the same back line all year. So they're opening a new stadium, which is something I've talked about a lot, and I kind of get some, not actual eye rolls, but metaphorical eye rolls for it. But I think that does come into play for how much a team can be up for a game. So the fact that they're opening a new stadium, Heel was gassed for is very uncharacteristic from him. All those things keep me kind of wavering, but I don't know that there's a clear runner-up for me, at least. I hear what Christian's saying about Fragapane, and I totally see the merit of it. But I think that the way Hill's putting up all of these bonus points and doing all of these extra things, I'm more inclined to see that Dallas game as a one-off than the start of a decline. So I think it's good if you do and good if you don't. I don't
think it's a decline.
No. I'm not saying I think you said that. I'm just saying I think that the 4 is more uncharacteristic than an expectation for
Totally.
this, if that makes sense.
But I still remember Heel burning us all.
No, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. I think
capable of laying an egg. Okay, he's done it
I'm
3
going to
times this year.
I don't know that I'm going to captain him. I think I might. But I think there's just some great differential picks out there as well. I think Nani is a decent shout. I think Fragapane is a decent shout. You know, I think that there are some interesting differential picks for captains this week that could help you move away from the pack or could hurt you if you're, you know, trying for one of those Champions League spots. So I am firmly in the middle, which is a place I don't like to be, but that's where I'm at on the hill debate this week.
Very fair. Currently, I have it on heel, but that's mostly because I want to see the lineup for Minnesota, because Fragapane is someone who I would enjoy captaining. I agree with Christian. He's got some amazing stats going into this. San Jose is a team I think could be exploited. And I went with that crazy Rui Diaz, or I stuck with that Rui Diaz pick last week, so I'm kind of open to having some different options. And what you said about Columbus is actually very thought-provoking for me, Christian, as well, for some of those stats and some of how they've been and being fully healthy. So those are, I think, definitely your top 2 captains for this week. And I'm, like I said, currently on heel, but that's because I want to see the lineup for Minnesota to see what happens, if anything else, from this potential suspension or this talk that we have been hearing. A lot of the same, mostly coming from chat. They're pointing out that heel has done well against some tough teams like Philly and New York City in the past. Yeah, no, I mean that's why we're looking at heel. ACG always captain heel, and NPB never pick Barrios. So that's how a lot of people can roll. All right, well, we've come to the end of the show. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We're going to wrap everything up with our plugs. Christian.
I have no plugs. I have some earplugs. That's about it.
No, not during the show. We want you to hear and everybody else to hear.
Oh, okay.
Blaine.
Yeah, I'm disappointed with MLS. Ashley brought up a sore subject. Chicharito gets the player of the week for 3 goals. They snubbed Shallowy, who had 3 goals and an assist, with that last goal being a game winner. I don't know what the kid has to do to really break out any farther than he has. I looked it up for the Sporting Crowd. Shallowy's base salary is $400,000, and he's number 3 on the goal scoring list right now in the Golden Boot race. Chicharito is on the books for $6 million this year, and Rui Diaz is on for I think 2.2. Yep. So he cost less than a fifth of what the next one does. The one guy ahead of him, Shallowy should have been team of the week.
Budgeting.
Or player of the week. Yeah. It's just they got to go with Chicharito because they don't want one of the biggest signings and $6 million to look like a huge bust.
Yeah.
Ashley, your plugs.
This week I am plugging Spencer because usually he gets thrown under the bus, but this week's his birthday. So special husband plug for this week because I get a lot of flack for giving him a lot of flack, so I thought I'd say something nice about him this week.
That's fair.
I want to plug the Discord.
There we go.
Sorry, I forgot. I was distracted.
God, oh my gosh. Well, I will plug first before I do my usual plugs. I will say for those American listeners that we have, please have a safe 4th of July weekend. We'll overlap some with MLS, but we won't catch you with our next show until after that. So please be safe and responsible when you are out enjoying that holiday. I actually have Monday off because of where the 4th falls this week, so I'll get a little bit of extra pool time myself this weekend with the family. So please have a safe and enjoyable 4th of July. Check out MLSFantasyBoss.com. Ashley and Blaine, we hope we're both going to have articles up this week. Also head over to the Discord. As Christian said, there is some fantastic conversation that goes on there about chalk, about not chalk, anything you want to find, you can find there. We also have some sub-channels for other fantasy games and just other general chat if you want to check that out as well. You can also still head over to the subreddit. We have the rant threads and the Rate My Team threads, everything that's there. So we have a fantastic community of people built up here. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us tonight, and good luck.